Hello everyone! So to take a break from all the re-uploads that are going on right now, I bring you Ice Hockey AU for KyouHaba. Who would have thought I will be doing AU for the channel? Those of you who know my AO3 probably will find this one familiar. It's an oldie, but I was really proud of it when I was writing it, and to be fair, I'm still pretty proud of it because it's one of my better stories, I would say. So I decided to bring this into the voiceover part of my career. Big quotation marks. As always, special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch my videos. You are keeping this channel going and alive. Thank you so much, and I hope you will enjoy. What do you mean we can't train here? Kyotane clenched his hand around the strap of his gear bag, listening to the team captain Iwaizume and their coach talking, or rather arguing, with a security guard in front of the stadium. The team arrived for their morning practice, but they were stopped right by the door before they even set their feet inside. Hey, I'm just doing my job. The cooling is broken, so the ice is in terrible shape. We have someone coming to take a look at it, but it will take some time. Meanwhile, you have to go elsewhere. Kyotane grumbled under his breath, all the energy bubbling inside of him eager to be let out in the ring. A heavy weight landed on his shoulder. Don't scowl so much, you'll get wrinkles. Kyotane huffed and shook off Matsukawa's arm. The alternate captain smirked and ruffled Kyotane's short hair, even though he knew very well that Kyotane hated it. How this person got to be a second in command in the team was beyond his understanding. I just want to go in and play. He hated inactivity, and the bickering with the security guy was taking too long for his liking. He just wanted to feel the ice under his skates and the weight of his hockey stick in his hands. He perked up when frowning Iwaizume finally made his way back to the team. Bad news. The stadium is closed, so we have to find another one. Coach is calling some places, so we will see if someone has space for us. Matsukawa sighed. The funniest thing is we told them 2 weeks ago that the ice is bad and they should check the cooling. But no, they have to leave it until it's broken completely. Iwaizume shrugged, obviously not happy about the situation himself. Changing stadiums was always trouble. Now they had to go somewhere where they didn't have their personal space. You don't have to tell me. I bet they wanted to save money, so now they have to give out much more for the complete repair. Karma is real, I would say. Yeah, but now we are the ones who have to deal with it. Matsukawa patted his shoulder and nodded towards their coach. I think we get some news now. Kyotane raised his eyes to him with hope. Their coach was a man in his mid-50s, with a sharp mind and even sharper tongue, a hockey legend of his time. If anyone would be able to find them a new place to train, it was him. Well, the good news is there is a stadium that can accommodate us until the cooling here is repaired. He threw a less than pleasant look at the security guard before turning his attention back to the team. It's a stadium the curling team is using, but they have a normal rink for skating too, which is not used as much, so we can be there for now. It's smaller, and we will probably have to share the changing room with the curling team, but we can't be picky right now. Kyotane rolled his eyes. He had only seen one game of curling, and it was the most boring thing he had seen in his entire life. How could anyone be content with only sliding on the ice and sending stones forward was beyond him. But at least he would get to stand on the ice soon. The coach clapped his hands and started to herd the team like a bunch of kids on a school trip to the bus stop. Come on now, we have to hurry up if we want to finish at a reasonable time. Kyotane shivered with impatience as they walked through the door to the stadium. It really was much smaller than their hockey one, but it reminded him of his childhood and the time he went playing with his father. It was quite nostalgic. Back then, he would have never imagined he was going to play in the big stadiums once, getting cheered on by hundreds or even thousands of fans. He shook his head to shoo away the bittersweet memory of his father and followed Iwaizumi further into the building. He could already hear the shouting from the inside, which he supposed was the curling team having their practice. Why did they have to shout so much? Iwaizumi led them into the changing room, which they fortunately didn't share with the curling team, whereas the coach went to check on the ring. Kyotani let out a relieved sigh when he finally put on his gear, the familiar weight of all the guards making his heart pump faster with anticipation. He rushed out of the changing room and immediately stumbled backwards as he collided with another person. What the heck? Kyotani opened his mouth to cuss out whoever wasn't looking on their way, but the words got stuck in his throat. The man in front of him measured him with narrowed eyes and scrunched brow, but even like that, he was the most beautiful sight he had seen in the last few years. The silver hair framed his face perfectly, bringing up the caramel color of his eyes, and the fitting clothes, now moving around his body as he rubbed his chest, just underlined his lean figure. Can't you look where you go? Kyotani shook his head to wake up from the stupor and frowned. Me? You crashed into me in the first place. No, I didn't. You just barged out of the door like you owned this place. What are you even doing here? This isn't a hockey stadium. Kyotani frowned even more at the tone the other used with the word hockey, but before he could say something back, he felt Iwaizumi's hand on his shoulder, squeezing to keep him quiet. We are just visiting. Our stadium is closed right now and we have to train elsewhere. We will be using the rink in the back, so we won't interfere with your practices. The other clicked his tongue, but nodded. Well, as long as you don't yell like madman, I guess it will be okay. But try to keep everything in place. We don't need you to close our stadium too. Kyotani was already opening his mouth to state they didn't break the cooling system on purpose either, but Iwaizumi's firm grip stopped him, so he settled for throwing eye daggers at the silver-haired man. He was pretty, but that was apparently the only quality he had. We will do our best to get along. He gave Kyotani a meaningful look. Everyone. Kyotani grumbled but didn't say anything. The rest of the team started to come out of the changing room led by Matsukawa, who wiggled his stupid eyebrows in Kyotani's direction as soon as he spotted the silver-haired man with them. Kyotani threw a murderous gaze at him. Very well. I'll see you around, I guess. With that, he headed to the door next to them, only throwing one last glare in Kyotani's direction. Matsukawa elbowed Kyotani lightly into the ribs. Pretty guy, eh? Kyotani narrowed his eyes at him, trying to suppress the heat crawling up the back of his neck. Don't you have a boyfriend? Matsukawa shrugged. I can appreciate beauty when I see it. Hiro would agree if he was here. You are both disgusting. They stumbled as Iwaizumi pushed them both forward. Stop chit-chatting. Warm-ups, now! Kyotani rejoiced as soon as his feet touched the ice, erasing any thoughts other than hockey from his head, especially the ones about the silver-haired man. He definitely wasn't thinking about him. Not at all. If anything, that guy was apparently a prick. Pretty, but a prick. And probably stuck up too. Though, his eyes weren't cold or hard, quite on the contrary, even when he was frowning. Shaking his head, Kyotani chased the image away and headed to the circle formed around their coach to start their practice. He stretched his tired muscles, sighing contently. Nothing felt as good to him as the slight soreness in his legs after a good practice. Because the season was starting soon, they had to get into shape pretty quickly, especially since their goal was to win the cup this year. And watching the team, Kyotane actually started to believe they could finally make it. He walked around the other ice rink, where the curling team was also slowly finishing their practice, and paused. There was the silver-haired guy from before, getting ready to send his stone. Kyotane had to admit it was quite a fascinating sight, and not because of how the pants stretched around his legs when he squatted down. It was the absolute concentration in those big brown eyes that sent his heart beating faster, the fire in them just waiting to be awakened by a successful sand. Some other guy standing at the end of the ice line called out something, and the silver-haired pushed himself forward, waiting a bit before letting the stone slide to the colorful circles by itself, accompanied by two other men with the weird brooms. The stone stopped precisely where the fourth guy pointed. "Nice one!" The silver-haired man clenched his fist in a content gesture and smiled at his teammates, praising them for good work. Kyotane looked away, the smile making his heart riot in his chest. Curse him and his whole pretty face. Kyotane would never admit it out loud, but his biggest problem with changing the environment might end up being that silver-haired guy. On one side, he could hardly stop watching him when he had a chance to see him during the practice. On the other hand, the man was causing him to lose his temper faster than Matsukawa, which was quite an amazing feat in itself. They spoke about every day so far, meaning 4 times, and yet they always managed to bicker about something, be it loud shouting, or mess in the hallway, or some other stupid thing. It was infuriating. And he still didn't even know his name. He huffed and sped up. He asked the coach if he could do some solo practice after the official one ended, meaning he was probably one of the last people in the building. He opened the door to the changing room without thinking, only to be torn from his thoughts by a high-pitched screech. "What the fuck are you doing here?" He looked up and froze, blood rushing into his face. He would lie if he said he wasn't imagining how the silver-haired guy looked without his sports clothes on at least on one occasion, but this wasn't how he imagined it to go. The other stared at him with an equally red face and wide eyes, wearing nothing and only a shirt in his hands. Get out! "I'm sorry, it was an accident, I swear." He got hit in the face with a towel, soon followed by a shoe hitting his thigh. "Out!" Kyotane collected his wits and backed away as fast as possible, shutting the door behind him just in time to hear the second shoe hitting them from the other side. Fucking hell. He rushed to the correct door just a bit further down the hall, realizing too late he was still holding the towel. He contemplated going back, but then decided against it. I'll give it back tomorrow, if he wants to speak with me. Fortunately, only Iwaizumi and Matsukawa were in the changing room now, talking about some strategy for the first match of the season next week. They both looked at him, and Matsukawa snickered. "See? I told you he's going to ask him." Iwaizumi raised his eyebrow. "How do you even know?" "Oh, just look at his face. He's redder than a boiled lobster." "I'm proud of you, Kyo. I didn't expect you to do the first step." Kyotane sputtered and hid the towel behind his back. "What the fuck are you two talking about?" "You asked that pretty curling guy out, didn't you?" He wiggled his eyebrows. "You don't have to be shy about it." "What? No, why would I do that?" "Well, first because you can't keep your eyes off him, second you always get all flustered when he's around, and third you always bicker when you talk to each other. You, my dear Kyotane, are in love and don't even try to deny it." Kyotane opened his mouth, but no words came out. Was he really? No way. That was stupid, right? Iwaizumi rolled his eyes and smacked Matsukawa's shoulder. "See what you did? Now he's in shutdown mode." We just met a few days ago. How could I love... Besides, he's just pretty annoying, that's all. Yeah, but he's also pretty, isn't he? Well, yeah, but... Come on, Issei, leave him alone. It's none of your business anyway. Matsukawa pouted. I'm just trying to help. He turned back to Kyotane. So what happened? Kyotane sighed and sagged on the bench. I accidentally walked on him changing. There was a beat of silence before Matsukawa burst out laughing, and even Iwaizumi's mouth corners twitched upwards. Well, at least you know what you are getting into. Kyotane threw a murderous gaze at both of them and started to change quickly, throwing his things into the bag without any order. It's not funny. It's a good icebreaker though. You'll see you'll be telling it to your kids. Oh, I fell in love with your father when I accidentally saw him naked in the changing room where I wasn't supposed to be. Great story, don't you think? Oh yeah, absolutely perfect now that he thinks I'm some perv. You could invite him out as an apology. Yes, and if it goes well, you can plan the next meeting like a real date. Kyotane groaned inwardly, throwing away all hope he was getting out of this with his pride intact. What even makes you think he would be interested? And even if he was, which he certainly isn't, I don't know how to date. I haven't dated since I started high school. Yeah, we know. But you can at least try. Kyotane sighed and looked at the towel lying next to him. It wasn't like he didn't like the idea of going out on a date with the other guy. Quite on the contrary. But he might have just ruined any chance he had before. And even if not, there was no guarantee he wouldn't mess up on their very first date and completely drive the other away. However, he felt bad for what happened, and some apology would be nice. And who knew where would that take them? He took a deep breath and nodded with newfound determination. Fine, I'll ask him tomorrow. To apologize. Matsukawa grinned and patted his shoulder. That's my boy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As I said, I really like this story. I know it's a bit self-centered to say that as the person who wrote it, but hey, you have to love the stories you are putting out. Otherwise, what would be the purpose? And I hope you will like it in the voiceover form as well, even if you already read it on my AO3 before. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.